The House of Lords plotting their last stand against Brexit. That's according to a minister quoted today as the UK Internal Market Bill. Attention turns to the Lords on this. Going to bring you all the very latest in this report, guys. But please remember to hit the subscribe button and the bell so you don't miss future reports. Lots to go through in this report, so stay with me. I'm going to bring you all the very latest. Now let's start off, of course, with the UK Internal Market Bill. Let's just remind ourselves that it was Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister himself, who made a passionate defence of the need for the UK Internal Market Bill, saying he had to protect the UK from the disaster of handing Brussels the power to carve up our country. Now you'll remember that this legislation has already passed through the House of Commons. In fact, not a single Conservative MP voted against it despite all the bluster. It passed easily in a vote, 340 votes to 256, a government majority of 84, not a single Tory MP voting against it. What we've seen recently, and I've said it out many times before, that the House of Lords being completely out of control. They recently backed what's called a regret motion, 395 to 169 against the UK Internal Market Bill. A majority of 226, and it looks like the Lords are going, and the Lords back involved with the UK Internal Market Bill now, going to bring you the latest on this. But there's also signs potentially of the Lords being reformed. I'm going to get to that in a bit, but I just want to start off with this Telegraph piece. Boris Johnson risks Joe Biden rift as he moves ahead with controversial Brexit legislation. I will just keep going back to the point. This has already been voted for by MPs, given that big Brexit mandate, that big Brexit majority by the people of this country at the last general election. Telegraph, the Prime Minister to push on with unamended Internal Market Bill despite peers expected to reject half a dozen clauses. The Prime Minister insisted that he would push on with an unamended Internal Market Bill despite peers being expected on Monday or Tuesday to reject half a dozen clauses which breached the withdrawal agreement hammered out with the European Union last year. Boris Johnson saying the parliamentary timetable goes ahead. The whole point of that bill, and indeed the finance bill, is to protect and uphold the Good Friday Agreement and the peace process in Northern Ireland. And again, that's one of the things that we're united on with our friends in the White House. We'll get to Joe Biden in a bit. Telegraph report, ahead of a key week in the Brexit trade talks, Johnson said an EU trade deal was there to be done. The broad outlines are pretty clear. We just need to get them to do it if we can. Michel Barnier, the EU's chief negotiator, spoke to Lord Frost, the UK's chief negotiator, on Sunday ahead of face-to-face talks in London this week. Cabinet ministers are already lining up over a battle how the government responds to the likely attempt by peers in the House of Lords to water down the UK Internal Market Bill by removing contentious clauses. One Brexit supporting minister told the Telegraph the Lords have a particular posture when it comes to Brexit. That's an understatement, isn't it? This is their last stand against Brexit, and on that basis alone they are going to shout, holler, call it out. This is the House of Lords giving their anti-Brexit stance another airing. At the end of the day, the government has got to press on. That's what a Brexit supporting minister has been quoted as saying. However, another who campaigned for Remain urged caution, saying they hope the government would not rush to use the Commons to reinstate the clauses and risk breaching international law. The minister said, if the negotiations are going well, then it could be a sign of goodwill that we can indicate that we don't need these clauses anymore. Having votes this week is not very helpful. I ain't folding up the deck chairs. We need those clauses because we have not got the agreement yet. Now this, a second report in Times Red Box, and do stay with me here because this is really interesting in terms of the long-term outlook in terms of the House of Lords. And if the government are actually, and I've said it before, they've got three options on the Lords. Either they can reform it, they can abolish it, or they can keep getting vote beatdowns regularly. Because let's not forget, this place is packed to the rafters with Remainers. The Liberal Democrats are ridiculously overrepresented for a party that's polling at 5 or 6%. But here's the Times Red Box report. So parliamentarians are pecking over the Internal Market Bill, the controversial piece of legislation which Joe Biden went on record to criticise during the US election campaign. Back in September, when the government revealed its intention to allow ministers to break international law, Biden tweeted, "We can't allow the Good Friday Agreement that brought peace to Northern Ireland to become a casualty of Brexit." The bill is being debated by the Lords, who with peers expected to take the unusual step of forcing 2 votes at committee stage today on clauses which give ministers the power to override the withdrawal agreement and determine future trade arrangements between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Now, George Eustice, the Environment Secretary, telling Times Radio today, these controversial clauses are all about defending the Good Friday Agreement. Times Redbox saying the widespread theory at Westminster is that today's ructions are a form of shadow boxing, and the government will eventually withdraw this part of the bill further down the line as negotiations with the EU progress. When Number 10 will say the whole breaking the law thing was only ever needed as a form of insurance. A Conservative peer quoted as saying, "I still think the government will concede, but the window for doing so is tightening." And a senior Labour source also quoted as saying, "Peers on all sides are pretty determined to try to knock out the law-breaking clauses. Ping pong might end up resembling a Wimbledon tiebreaker." But this is the really interesting part for me. Again, Times Redbox today. That business in the Lords is being conducted very much with one eye on the House's ultimate demise. And let me know what you think about that in terms of the House of Lords. I know there's a lot of support for abolishing the House of Lords completely. This is said to be a passion project of Sir Eddie Lister, the PM's head of strategy. Lister himself, ennobled by Johnson in a recent peerage list, and apparently fancies taking down the House of Lords from the inside. As Times Redbox report, a number of conditions are on its side in pursuing this. A large majority of Tory MPs are driven by their loyalty to Brexit, whose voters have little time for the House and probably would not mourn its passing. And I certainly would say you guys, from the response I get on this channel, are among that. We've seen some absolutely ridiculous votes. The House of Lords well past its sell-by date. And this report saying it will be grist to the Tory mill if Downing Street can point to a recent example of their hands being forced by peers in a struggle with the EU. I do really think that the government cannot go on with the House of Lords as it is. But in terms of the UK Internal Market Bill, just to reiterate, asked whether ministers would immediately reinstate any of the bill's clauses that might be reversed by the House of Commons, Cabinet Minister George Eustice saying, "We will. The UK Internal Market Bill is not about undermining the Belfast Agreement, but it's about standing behind it and making sure it works and looking after the interests of Northern Ireland." And he concluded by saying, "We've got to provide that legal certainty and legal clarity. That's all the bill does." Very clear here, the House of Lords once again trying to get involved when it comes to the UK Internal Market Bill, described as a last stand against Brexit. Let me know in the comments what you make of all of this. One thing's for sure, it's one of those issues where are the government going to have the bottle to fight it out, to battle it out, to win this, or are they going to back down? And of course, the end of the transition period fast approaching at the end of this year. Let me know what you make of all of this. Give me your thoughts on what you make of all of this from the House of Lords. And if you've enjoyed this report, guys, as ever, please click the thumbs up button. It really helps me out. And also, if you want to become a supporter of the channel, do click the join button to become a supporter. And of course, guys, as ever, thank you very much for watching.